Hello, I'm gonna cover more or less the same topics, just giving you another perspective, which is, I hope, complementary. When Paula proposed to participate in this very interesting workshop on representation and migration issues, I was really delighted because I'm one of the few persons who actually care for competencies and representation. But also because I know that this is a very contentious issue. EU institutions fight all the time among themselves and with the member states over competence issues, over representation issues, sometimes over seemingly absurd things like which name should we write on the nameplate? Should it be European Union or European Union and the member states? This is something that went on for months and that led to hundreds of statements that were cancelled because of this kind of disputes. So I thought this is a very contentious topic. There should be a lot of practice, a lot of disputes, which are always nice for lawyers. Also, migration is a very sensitive topic, as Paula rightly mentioned. So I thought we put together these two things and we get something extremely sexy. And then I looked at the discussions on the UN compacts. And I have to say, they are incredibly boring. Because everything works as it is supposed to work. You have the European Union delegation that in Geneva or New York that went before all the other delegations and that delivered the message on behalf of the European Union, the whole of European Union, CFSP, Migration, Commission, High Representative, everyone. They gave their message and also delivered a message on behalf of the member states of the European Union. And the member states very kindly also aligned themselves with the Declaration of the European Union, which means that everybody agreed. There is unanimity about the message. Everybody is happy with the message, the policy that the European Union should bring forward on migration. Everyone, all the institutions, all the member states. A big, happy family. Finally, we have unity. And when I realized this, I was a bit depressed because honestly, I didn't know what to say then today. And I thought, well, let's look back. Let's look at the rest of the debate on migration. And that's where I remembered that Paula wrote a very nice blog post on the DSEU's website in 2016 on representation on migration issues. And I thought we can start from there. Let's look at all the other examples. And what I discovered is that there is a very strange landscape in the migration field because everything always works fine, because everybody seems to agree on everything. Let's make a few examples. The European Union has concluded several international instruments on behalf of the European Union and on behalf of the member states, which is strange because these instruments also cover the member states' competencies. Did the member states protest against it? No, because they actually like it. I'm thinking about the joint way forward with Afghanistan, which is a readmission agreement in disguise, non-binding, but nevertheless. The deal with Ethiopia, which is about to be concluded. Mobility partnerships also. But the reverse also happened. You have the member states concluding international instruments with third countries in areas of EU competencies. The most obvious case is the Italia-Libya deal of last year, which concerns the disbursement of EU money. And it was concluded by Italy, not by the EU. Did the EU protest against it? Did the Commission bring an infringement proceeding against Italy? Of course not, because everybody agrees. And let's come to the case of the EU-Turkey statement. Let us assume that the thesis of the European Council is correct, that what the General Court said is correct, and that the statement was concluded by the member states, not by the European Union. Then we have a rather paradoxical situation, because the statement concerns EU competencies, or at least it concerns EU money, because the statement speaks about the disbursement of EU funds, which is arguably an EU exclusive competence, at least. And then we have, of course, all the funds, the Refugee Fund for Turkey, the EU Trust Fund for Africa, and so on and so forth, where you have the member states and the European Union acting jointly or not, or putting money together or not. So everybody agrees on doing stuff together. Sometimes it's the member states, sometimes it's the Union, sometimes it's the President of the European Council, sometimes it's the President of the Commission. The lines are very blurred. There is no precise division of competence, there is no precise division of powers among institutions. Which is somehow nice, because it prevents all those infightings about powers and competencies, infightings which are pretty useless in policy terms. So you just go on and do your policy, and you don't spend time, you don't waste time discussing who should do what. That's nice somehow, because it makes you more effective. It gives the world an image of unity for the European Union. I'm pretty sure that from the perspective of Libya, the European Union is very united. So that's good, supposedly. But there is, of course, a but, which is rather huge. First of all, the powers of European institutions have been disregarded entirely. The powers of the European Commission, the power of external representation, for instance, is somehow ignored. The European Commission should be the only institution speaking on behalf of the European Union. Yet, where is it exactly? And even worse, what about the European Parliament? Now, I don't want to be provocative, but if we close down the European Parliament today, I'm pretty sure that we will not see any difference when it comes to the migration policy of the European Union. Because what the European Parliament did over the last 2 years in this field is basically nothing. And the European Parliament was never consulted, was bypassed entirely by all the other institutions, notably the European Council, and the European Parliament did not react in any way. Did it bring action against the Turkey statement? No, not at all, which is rather weird because the European Parliament is normally very active about the protection of its own powers. So the point is that, first of all, we have this disregard for the powers of EU institutions and somehow for democracy. And then there is also disregard for the competencies of the European Union. Again, let us assume that the EU-Turkey statement was concluded by the member states, which I think is not the case, but still. Well, we have the member states that concluded a statement and an arrangement with a third country in an area of EU exclusive competence, which is pretty weird because, well, first of all, it's illegal, and secondly, because it's somehow nonsensical in my view. How can you assume that the member states conclude via an EU institution or a EU organ like the President of the European Council, who negotiated the statement, they conclude an arrangement in an area of EU exclusive competence? It's a rather weird assumption, in my view. When you have EU exclusive competence and you have a new body that speaks, you might assume the contrary, that is, that the EU concluded it. So we have all sorts of lacks of clarity or contradictions, which bring about several negative consequences in practice. First of all, the rule of law. Who's gonna annul the EU-Turkey statement or the EU-Ethiopia deal? Or who's gonna supervise the management of the trust funds that nobody understands, by the way? And there is also, more importantly perhaps, a lack of accountability. This is the question that has been asked today and this morning also several times. Who decides? Who does what? It's not clear because powers are not respected, competencies are not respected, which means that we don't know who does what, who has done what in the past, and who will do what in the future. Because every decision is taken ad hoc. There is no rationale behind it. There is no legal rule that is respected, and a constitutional division of power that is respected. And that's somehow weird, especially for a democratic European Union where at least the Parliament should see its prerogatives protected. So my conclusion is that, yes, we have a strange, unique, unpredictable unity on this specific topic, notably irregular migration, and that's somehow good because we finally have coherence, and this demonstrates that there is agreement among all policymakers about the priorities for the European policy. But, strangely, this is at least my impression, nobody wants to take responsibility. Nobody wants to be accountable for this policy. And EU institutions and the member states are creating all sorts of creative, magical instruments so that all lines of responsibility are blurred, so that nobody should take responsibility for any decision. So we have a very happy family, but a rather irresponsible one. Thank you.